Hey everyone, welcome back. In this video, I'm going to show you how I color grade my videos. Color grading is one of my favorite parts of making videos, and it can be a lot of fun when you know what you're doing. If you want to learn more about this, I have a Skillshare class and it's called Video Editing with DaVinci Resolve for Beginners. There I go more in depth into the techniques I use to create these videos for you guys. If you click the link down in the description, you'll get 14 days of Skillshare Premium for free so that you can watch my class or anything else you want. Let's get right into it. Okay, so this is where I do the color grading for my videos. This is the color page of DaVinci Resolve. And for those of you who've never seen this before, I'm gonna give you a quick introduction. So here you have your LUTs, and LUT stands for lookup table. And LUTs are pretty much color grading presets. You can buy them, you can download them, there's a bunch of resources where you can get LUTs. And they are a pretty simple way to make your footage look really good, and we are going to use it a lot later in this video. As you can see, if you scroll through the preview of the LUT, it gives you a live feedback of what it's going to look like if you use that LUT on your footage. Pretty useful. Here you can see all of the clips that you're using in your timeline. And here you can see your nodes. The color page and Fusion are based on nodes, and nodes are basically stages of processing. It goes from the first green dot, which is your input, and this is pretty much your raw footage. And then it goes into the multiple nodes that you might be using, and then it goes to your output. Down here you have all of the actual tools that you use to edit the actual footage. And over on the left side, here you have all of the tools to visualize your footage a little better. You have Parade, Waveform, Vector Scope, Histogram, and Chromaticity. So we're gonna be using Waveform today. So we're gonna select the only node that we have right now, and we're gonna start working with this node. So I shot this footage with a flat color profile. So you can see that the black is not really pure black. And you can see here that it's not actually touching down here, the black line. So I'm gonna pull down the blacks until they touch the actual black. And lift, gamma, and gain are pretty much shadows, middle tones, and highlights. So I'm gonna pull down the shadows. And here you can see that they are touching the line that's the pure black, and here you can see that it is indeed pure black. I'm going to lift the middle tones a little bit because I do want a little bit more detail out of those dark areas. And I think the highlights look good the way they are. And this button turns on and off the entire color grade. Now the white balance. The white balance is the temperature of your image. So here you can see temp for temperature. If you go down, it gets colder. If you go up, it gets warmer. And by default, I think it's just a little bit cold, and you can make it a little bit warmer manually. Or you can also take this tool right here, the white balance, and select something that you know that is pure black inside your frame. For example, I can select the keys here in my keyboard, and it automatically adjusts the image so that that thing that we selected is pure white. Pretty cool. And it adjusted the temperature and the tint. And the tint is how magenta or green it looks, how much like the Matrix it's gonna look. I'm actually gonna make it a little bit green because I don't like magenta tones a lot. So that's what we have so far. I'm gonna lift the highlights just a tiny bit. And now that we have our exposure, our contrast, and our temperature set, I'm gonna add a second node. Right click and then add node, add serial. I'm gonna lock this node so that I don't edit it by accident. I'm gonna select this one so that we start working with the second one. And I'm gonna use this one to add a LUT. So these are the two LUTs that I usually use for my videos. I have Stillwater and Seattle. So I'm gonna be using Seattle today, and I'm gonna take it, I'm gonna drag and drop on top of my node. And by default, LUTs are usually very strong on the footage. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go to this tab, key, and we're gonna drop the key output gain. I usually set my LUTs to around 30%, which in this case is 0.3, something around there. And what I'm doing is pretty much lowering the opacity of the node, which in this case is the opacity of the LUT, since we're using only the LUT in this node. And we're going to click on the number of the node to turn it on and off. As you can see, the LUT that I'm using is giving it a little bit more texture, and it's giving it a little bit more of a vintage vibe. You can see here that it's lifting the shadows a little bit. So now the black is not pure black anymore. And it's also lifting the highlights just a tiny bit. I really like how it looks. So before and after. Pretty cool. So we're gonna add another node. Add node serial. I'm going to lock the previous one. And in this node, I'm gonna make the shadows colder and the highlights warmer. This is a very classic Hollywood look, and it's usually called teal and orange. So I'm gonna drag the shadows towards the blue. And I'm gonna drag the highlights towards the orange. And now we have contrast in the colors themselves and not just the exposure. This is what our node is doing. It's very heavy, so I'm gonna drop the opacity of that node a little bit. I don't like going very strong with this look. I like how it's getting rid of that green tone in the wall. I think that looks good. And now I'm going to add one last node. I'm gonna lock this one. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna make sure that the blacks or the really dark shadows are not dark blue, because that's kind of what we just did. So I'm just gonna go to curves and I'm gonna look for Lum and Sat, which is luminance and saturation. And here we have in the x-axis our exposure, and in the y-axis the saturation. So here we have our shadows, and I'm gonna pull those down, and I'm basically pulling down the saturation of the shadows. And you can see here that those black gigbacks in the background are actually black again, are not just dark blue. If I turn it off, that looks a little bit more bluish. It's a very subtle effect, but when I drop the saturation of the shadows, I make sure that those black things in the background are actually black and my hair doesn't look blue anymore. And that's it. I just make sure that it looks good throughout the entire clip, because sometimes the lighting changes a little bit because I'm using sunlight. And I copy the color grade using Alt-1, and I just paste it in the other clips with Ctrl-1. And now they all have the proper color grading. And then I make sure that they all have the same correct exposure throughout the entire clip. And that's it. That's how I do the color grading. If you want me to go more in depth into how I make these videos and how I set up the lighting and all of the technical aspect of how to make videos look more cinematic and professional, just let me know down in the comments. I know that most of my content is about music, but I also want to share with you how I make these videos, because I think that this is a skill that working musicians should have. I went to music school and I know a ton of musicians, and most of them don't really know how to make a basic, good-looking and sounding video. Recently, with the global pandemic, this has proven to be such a valuable skill to have. Music teachers, students, session players, live musicians, every kind of musician now has to make videos from home. That's why I think my regular viewers could benefit greatly from my Skillshare class. If you've never edited a video before, this class is a great place to start. DaVinci Resolve is a free professional video editing software, and it's the one I recommend you start with. In this class, I'll show you everything you need to know so that you can use this program to make your videos. So click the link in the description so you can get 14 days of Skillshare Premium for free. That's more than enough time to watch my class and a bunch of other ones without having to pay anything. And as a gift to those of you who watched this video until the end, if you're the first one to scroll all the way down to the end of the description and click the last link, you'll be able to watch my class for free whenever you want. It will be all yours. Only the first one, I'm only giving one away. The rest of you can still use the free trial that I'm giving you. I hope you found this video helpful. If you liked it, please give it a like and consider subscribing. Thank you for watching and I'll see you next time.